Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm really excited about the workshop today because it's really near and dear to my heart. So welcome to the Productive Creator Workshop. Today, we're going to be discussing the strategies that the most successful creators use to create. And if you don't know me, my name is Randall, and I'm the head of community at Gumroad. My job is all about creating workshops like this and running challenges and events for Gumroad creators, and we're actually running the Gumroad 14-day product challenge right now. And it's a 2-week challenge, and at the end, creators, they have a product complete, and it's sort of like the National November Writing Challenge, NaNoWriMo, but just for creators. And it started on Monday, so if you want to join in, it's not too late. And you can subscribe at gumroad.com/Gumroad, so you can be on the list for whenever we run a new challenge or event. And I'd also love for you to sign up to the Circle community where you can chat with myself and other Gumroad creators to get advice and accountability and participate in our upcoming challenges and workshops. So let's jump in because I'm really excited to talk about how you can become a more productive creator. So this topic is really near and dear to my heart because I've been reading about habits and focus since I was maybe 14 years old. And this can help you in a massive way to become a more successful creator. I know it's really helped me in my life. So we're going to go through a few things in this workshop. So we're going to plan our creator goals, but I really want to discuss this one idea first so we can keep that in mind for when we do our planning. And it's something that the most successful creators on Gumroad know, but not a lot of other creators know, and it's to start small. So when we want to create this giant product, we usually think of something huge. And we think of like this one big idea that we really want to work on. And this is kind of one of the main reasons that we actually started the 14-day product challenge at Gumroad. And it's because small creators tend to spend a ton of time working on their first product, and they become really, really overwhelmed fast. And creating is not easy at first. If it was, everyone would be doing it. So we need to make it easier on ourselves and break our products down into these small, manageable chunks. So I've actually been really guilty of this in the past. I wasn't a Gumroad creator at the time, but I spent about 6 months writing a book, and it took out a ton of my time. And if I would have just, focused on starting small, I would have had a book done in half that time. And instead, what if I would have spent 6 months writing a book that nobody had wanted to read? So Daniel Vasallo, who you might have heard of him, he's an extremely successful Gumroad creator, and he's the head of product at Gumroad, and he's made over $250,000 in Gumroad products. And he discusses this concept called small bets. And this is something you need to do for your Gumroad product in 2021. So start small. If you want to create a huge flagship product, break it down into chunks. If you want to write a 200-page ebook, start with a 50-page ebook. If you want to write, a huge create an 8-hour video course, start with a 45-minute video course. Because consumers want consumable content. And if you kind of think about it, if you've solved all of your customers' problems in a 30-minute video, why are they going to buy your future products? Why are they going to purchase from you again? This is something that Jose Rosado talks a lot about. Because if you've given away everything in your knowledge base for $20 or $30, they don't need to purchase anything else from you because they've kind of gotten everything. And people want something where they feel like they can have a win. They want consumable content. So I think it's time now to go into our 2021 goal setting. So I want to keep this whole concept of that in your mind. So let's start with your 2021 goals, and let's start with keeping them measurable. So I want you to think, and you might want to grab like a notepad or a pen and paper, however you want to keep track. I want you to think about what you want to get accomplished in 2021. What do you want to get done? Like if you think about 2022, where do you see yourself? Where would you like to be? That's really important for me when I set goals. I really think about where I would like to be, in the next year, because we think the next year is so far away, but it's really not that far. If we all look at 2021, it passed really, really quickly. And here we are. 2020 passed quickly, and now here we are in 2021. And then we're going to go straight into 2022. So grab a piece of paper, notepad, open, Google Docs, whatever you want to do. And I want you to think about your 2022 goals and where you would like to be and create habits for 2021. So maybe it's that you want to create a new product. Maybe you want to create 2 new products. Maybe you want to set a revenue goal. But the most powerful goals are going to be something that you set that are measurable. They're not going to be something like, I'd like to be fit next year, or I'd love to be a Gumroad creator. They're going to be something like, I want to write 2 products and have them on Gumroad. I want to make $5,000 in monthly reoccurring revenue. And that's really important to think about because you need to break these goals down later, and it's going to be important. So if you can think about them right now, think about just a few goals that you'd like to set. And maybe it's, quitting your 9 to 5, or maybe it's a follower count, but think of 2 to 3 goals that are really measurable, because that's going to be really powerful in breaking your goals down into achievable chunks. Because like I said earlier, if you have these really lofty goals, and this is something that I do every year and something that I've fixed for myself, and that's why I want to share it with you to help you become a more powerful creator. So if you think about maybe one of your goals, say it's that you want to quit your 9 to 5, or say it's you want to make XYZ in revenue each month at Gumroad, you kind of have to think about breaking those goals down. So say you have one goal that you want to complete in the next year, and maybe it is that you want to get to 5,000 Twitter followers or 1,000 YouTube subscribers, or you want to reach the certain number on your email list. I want you to write that down on your list, and I want you to think of what you can do per quarter to reach that goal. So maybe your goal is you want to get 5,000 email subscribers by the end of 2021. So start breaking that down per quarter. So 5,000, divide that into each quarter. You need to have a certain goal of maybe 1,000, a little over 1,000 in the first quarter. That sounds pretty achievable, right? If you think about 5,000, this seems like a huge number, and you're going to be completely overwhelmed thinking like that. But if with every goal you have, think about if you want to achieve $5,000 in monthly recurring revenue on Gumroad. Well, think about the actual steps you need to get there to achieve it. So once you've broken this goal down per quarter, write that down. Think about this is what you need to do to reach this certain goal. And maybe it's Twitter users and Twitter followers, and you need to reach that certain goal of Twitter followers. Write that down per quarter. Maybe you want to get to 1,000 or 500 Twitter followers. Divide that per quarter and think about that per month now. So this is a really great system, and it's actually in the book, The 12-Week Year. I read it a while ago, and it completely changed my life. So I highly recommend that you read it, and it's really helpful in creators because it gives you an actual system to achieve your goals. Because if we think about a year from now, like I said earlier, that's like a really far amount of time away, and it's really scary to think about, wow, I want to be at 5,000 email subscribers, by the end of this year. And that's kind of overwhelming if you think about it. And the problem with overwhelming goals is that we look at these goals and we're like, oh my gosh, this seems so overwhelming. This seems so far away. But if we think about it per quarter and then per month and then per day, it doesn't seem that overwhelming, right? So this is kind of an ambitious goal, 5,000 email subscribers. That's a lot, but it's completely doable. I actually did it for myself this year, so I can personally attest that you can do it too. And I think the best way to think about this is if you think about it per day. And per day, 13 sounds like a lot, but if you want to turn this into your 9 to 5, you can absolutely achieve it. And we've discussed in a lot of workshops, ways that you can get there, and if this is your goal in particular, and this is a great goal to have for a creator. So I highly recommend you join one of our other challenges that are coming up, and you can find them all on Gumroad University, which is really exciting. And just think about this per day. Think about 13 people per day. How many times do you have to share your offer? What content can you create that will get you there? And that's kind of how you create a system. Because if you think about this goal and you think, oh, it's huge, that's not really going to help you achieve your goal. But instead, if you look at this goal and you think, okay, so now I need to create something that will get people interested in actually wanting my offer. That's a far different way to think about it. That's an easy first step to take. and you can go create an amazing guide or a mini product or a 7-day email list, challenge, or an email course. And you just start giving that away for free. You make it amazing. That's your first priority. You spend maybe, a few weeks making it amazing. Maybe it's 2 weeks. Maybe you join the 14-day challenge and you build it there. But that's your first step. So I want you to start thinking of your goals in terms of things that you actually break down. Because goals are they're not as great as processes. It's so much greater if you have a process, because the goal is a very far off thing. But if you, as a creator, start creating this process for yourself, it's going to be far more impactful to your life. So I want you to create your to-do list from your goals. So maybe your goal is to have 13 subscribers per day to get you to that 5,000 number at the end of the year. So the first thing you need to do, create a powerful lead magnet. Like I just said, you need to spend this amount of time, whatever it takes, to make something amazing that people want to take, they want to get your offer for free. And then you need to start sharing it, and you need to create content around it. So maybe that's creating a powerful lead magnet. Maybe that's writing one blog post per week to get people on your list because they want to have updates. Maybe it's reaching out to several podcasts to be a guest and then sharing that with your email list. There's so many different ways that you can create a process, and this is something that James Clear talks a lot about, and it's something that completely changed my life. And there's many ways that you can track this. You can get yourself a little calendar, and you can put maybe like a little red X or like a little check mark every time you complete, your goal of the day. But your goal should be really to break it down where you have this repeatable process per day. So maybe your process is sharing your offer once per day, sharing your lead magnet a few times a week. Maybe it's every week you're creating one blog post. Because like I said, if you look at this huge goal and you think, wow, this is so overwhelming, you're probably not going to get there. But if instead you look at your goal and you think, okay, well, I need to do this every single day to reach my goal, you're going to have a far more likelier chance of actually meeting your goal, and it's going to be far more powerful for you. So the next thing I want you to think about, something that I do every single day, is to create habits that support your goals. And we've talked about this a little bit already, but it's really important to do this because motivation is a myth. And there's a great book about it that I highly recommend that you read. It's called The Motivation Myth. And I'll give you like the little short summary of it. It's basically that motivation does not exist. And that's kind of a lie, because sometimes it does exist. I'm sure there are times like me, I feel I feel motivated to do something. But most of the time, we don't feel like doing something. We don't feel like going and writing our book. We don't feel like creating a video course. And we might get like a little motivated or inspired sometimes to do it. But a lot of the time, like I want to go sit on my couch. I want to go watch TV. I want to read a book. I want to, go for a hike. I don't necessarily every day feel motivated to share my list. I don't feel motivated, to go write my book. I don't feel motivated to create a video course. Very rarely do I feel that way. It's great when it happens. But I think the most powerful thing you can take away, if you are a first-time creator or you're a long-term creator and you're struggling with feeling this motivation, and you think that you need motivation to be successful, that's not true. You do not need motivation to be successful. What you really need to do is you need to create habits that support your goal. So once you've kind of gotten into the structure where what we've done so far is you've written down maybe 2 to 3 goals, maybe it's 1, maybe it's 4, but you've written down a few goals, and I want you to start creating this system of what you need to get done. And then every single day, just do a little bit on your list. And if your goal is, 10 or 12, 13, whatever, email subscribers per day, think about what you need to do per day to get that done. And instead of waiting for this feeling of motivation, I want to ask you just to sit down and do it. And it's really hard, and it's something you're going to have to train your brain. And it might be starting small. Maybe your email list, you want it to get to 1,000 email subscribers at the end of the year. And that is completely achievable. And it's also something that can help you become a full-time content creator on Gumroad. You really only need a certain amount of engaged followers. You don't need this huge number. 1,000 really engaged subscribers that care about you is better than 10,000 subscribers that don't really know you. So when you're sitting down each day and you're thinking about what you need to get done, I want you to just focus on getting that small thing done on your list and kind of ignoring this feeling that you need motivation, because you do not need motivation. It definitely helps, but you do not need it, because once you sit down and you actually just think about what you need to get done and you do it, you're going to feel so great after. I promise you, if you sit down and you write a half page of your book today, or you outline a little bit of the video course you want to create and you create just a tiny portion maybe tomorrow, you're going to feel inspired and you're going to feel successful. And those feelings are so much better than motivation, because if you repeat that every day, what you can get done in one day, maybe it's sharing your list, maybe you get a few new subscribers, that doesn't seem that big. But in a month, or at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, that's really going to add up. So if you create these processes that will feed into your goals, it's going to completely change your life as a Gumroad creator. So there's a few ways you can do that. We've already discussed one of them. Don't wait for motivation. The next thing that you can do, that I do every single day, this is kind of my entire process for becoming a Gumroad creator. And if you don't know me personally, I wrote 2 books last year for Gumroad. I made around $40,000 on Gumroad, and I actually work at Gumroad now because I love Gumroad so much. But the next thing you can do is create starter habits. And a starter habit it's discussed a lot online, and it's easy to think about, but it's a little bit harder to implement in your life. And we kind of think it's easy, but then we don't follow through. So I want you, after this workshop, to go write down, maybe do it right now if you have your pen and paper, just write down one starter habit. And so what is a starter habit? A starter habit is just a tiny little habit that feeds into your larger habit. So this isn't relevant to Gumroad creators, but say you want to start running and you maybe want to run a marathon at the end of the year, which hopefully you don't have to have a mask on to do at some point. But basically what you need to do is create a starter habit that feeds into that habit. So maybe your starter habit for running is you put on your shoes. And maybe if your goal, is to write a book on Gumroad this year, maybe your starter habit is you open your Word doc and you write one sentence. And this seems like an easy thing to do, and it is. And the great thing that once you do this, once you just force yourself to sit down and do it, that's kind of the hard part. The easy part is once you're started, you're going to feel so motivated and you're going to feel so successful that you're going to keep going. So that one sentence of your book is going to turn into a half page. And you can apply this to your video courses. You can apply this to your email list subscribers and growing that. You can get it to your blog posts. You can apply this to anything. The really important thing is once you've kind of written down your goals and you've written down your process and what the habits you want to create to actually move forward with those goals, then you have to think about starter habits for each one of those habits. So for me personally, when I wanted to write a Gumroad book last year, but I felt, really nervous and I didn't know where to start and I was worried, nobody would even read it. I just would sit down every single day and I would write a little bit of my book. And it started next to nothing. I started with maybe like a few sentences and I was like, oh, that was so painful. That was intimidating and I'm not a good writer. And I had all these thoughts in my head, and you probably have them too, because unfortunately it's a very normal feeling. But once I actually sat down and did it, I felt so confident that I kept going. And that little bit of progress that you're going to make every day towards becoming a 9-to-5 full-time Gumroad creator and quitting your actual 9-to-5, once you've actually done this for a few days, it starts, you'll start to see a ton of benefit. Things will really add up for you in your life. So it's really important to think about the habits you want to create and think about starter habits. And the next thing that you can do, and this is also out of a great book, I think it's called The One Thing, pick your most important thing to do each day. Because it's really easy right now, if you're working a full-time job, which you probably are, to get really tired at the end of the day at work and to not feel like you can get your goals done each day. And then, Monday passes, you're tired. Maybe you just want to relax and watch TV on your couch. Totally fine. I do that too. And then maybe Tuesday comes and kind of the same thing repeats, and then Wednesday and Thursday, and then you get to the weekend and you're like, where did my week go? I didn't do anything with my Gumroad creation. And that kind of cycle can continue. So I want you to create kind of like little hacks for yourself, like not waiting on motivation and creating starter habits. But also another really important thing you can do is just think about the one thing you can do to move your life forward that day, to move your full-time Gumroad content creation goals forward. And like we said earlier, maybe it's you share your email list, and maybe it's that you create one blog post per week, and maybe it's you reach out to a certain amount of podcasts and you go on one podcast a month to kind of grow your audience and create content. And maybe you have social media goals, but I want you to pick your one most important thing each day, and you don't do anything else until that is done. And okay, total disclaimer here, if you have kids, you have family, you're busy, you're working maybe 2 jobs, don't worry about doing that first. Maybe it's at midnight, maybe it's at 10 p.m. That's okay too. It's totally fine. But the most important thing you can do is just get it done, even if it's a tiny thing, even if it's maybe tweeting once per day, whatever kind of that number is for you. Put it down your goals, and then pick the one most important thing you can get done each day, because it is going to change your life. And the next thing that you can do that's going to be really helpful in reaching your goals and becoming a full-time Gumroad creator is creating time on your calendar to create. Because if it's not on your calendar, it's probably not going to get done, right? Like if we go see our friends, and well, obviously not right now, but in the past when we went to see our friends, or maybe we had a business meeting, or maybe we had a fitness class scheduled, those are things that probably get done, right? Like back when you could actually meet your friends, for a beer or something like that. Or, you could meet at a cafe. If it was on your calendar, it got done. So I want you to go look at your calendar right now, and your calendar is your priority. Those is a complete list. It's a complete list of your priorities. So on your calendar, if your content creating isn't on there, it's probably not getting done each day, right? And that's a problem, because if it's not on your calendar, if it's not getting done, where are you going to be in a year? And I want you to think of like in terms of a quarter or 2 quarters or a year, not tomorrow. So in scheduling time to create, there's like a few ways that you can have the most impactful, powerful session, even if you only have 15, 20 minutes. First of all, pick a goal for your session right away. And this is something that I always do. I've done this for a long time to help me content create in Gumroad. Pick a goal for the session, and don't sit down and get ready for a long session of working on stuff without actually setting a goal for that. So maybe it's your one most important thing, or maybe before you sit down, you decide you want to write a certain amount of words for your blog posts. But whatever it is, you need to pick a goal so you sit down and you feel like you have something to work on. So a common thing, and I know that I do it sometimes too, is that we sit down and we have this goal of what we want to get done. And then we sit on our computer and we go on Twitter and we check YouTube and we're reading, our email. And then suddenly we look up and a half hour has gone by. But something that's going to be completely life-changing for you, I know that it has personally changed my life, is that if you sit down, have a goal for the session, and you just focus on that goal. And even if it's only a 20-minute session, 15 minutes, that is enough to change your life over the course of a year and put you in a very different position than you were last year. And I know for me personally, that was where I was last year. I just had to sit down for 15 minutes every day and work on my book. And it completely changed my life. So something else you can do is using the Pomodoro technique, and you can Google this. You probably might know about it already, but it's a little bit harder to implement. We think it's easy, but it's hard to implement, like a lot of things are. Once you have your goal for your session, just sit down, set a timer for maybe 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, maybe 30, and just completely focus on that. Put your phone on do not disturb, block social media sites if you have to. Ask one of your friends to become your accountability partner, and you both sit on Zoom and watch each other work. And there's like a number of ways you can become accountable for doing this. But the most important thing is that you're putting time on your calendar to create. And that's going to be the number one thing that's going to keep you accountable, is just putting that on your calendar. And another thing that you can do to become a more productive creator in 2021 is finding your accountability partner. Because there are a lot of days that I don't feel like creating, and you probably might feel that way too, because like we said earlier, motivation is a myth, it's very scarce. But your partner might feel like creating, and vice versa. Maybe there's one day, you can think of back when we could actually have fitness buddies and go work out with them. We could actually, go be accountable with someone else. And if you do not have someone, you can also find one on Gumroad, because we have the circle community now. And if you join the circle community, there's a ton of like-minded creators that will be on there too, looking for accountability partners. And this can be a great way to find someone that's, really motivated as well. And maybe if they're not motivated one day, maybe you can help them and vice versa. But they're on the same path as you. And I know for me personally, I have a ton of accountability partners for every different aspect of my life. And another way, if you feel a little nervous about finding an accountability partner, because I did it first, so absolutely no judgment, you can post updates on the status updates circle. We have this channel on Gumroad, and it's Gumroad circle space, I guess. And you can join there and you can post a status update each day. And I do this in kind of different ways throughout my life, whether it's on Circle or Slack, but kind of just post what you want to get done. And even if you just start tweeting, if you're building in public and you're saying, I'm going to get this done each day, that can be really powerful for your goals. So thank you so much for joining this session. I'm going to go over a few things that we discussed today as like a summary, and then we're going to open it up to a Q&A session. So thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate your time. And the most important points you can take away from today are goals, not as good as processes. So if you just set your New Year's resolutions, keep them, but turn them into processes. So sit down and think about what you actually have to get done each day. And the next is don't wait for motivation. And I highly recommend you read The Motivation Myth, because it completely just changed my life when it comes to my, what I thought I needed to have to like sit down and, work for 30 minutes. And the last thing is create time on your calendar to create. Because if it's not on your calendar, it's probably not getting done. And the things on your calendar, those are the things that usually get done. So thank you so much. And I'm going to open it up for Q&A now. Awesome. So feel free to post your questions in the Q&A, and we'll be going over them for about the next 15 minutes. So we have a few questions already. Thank you for the kind comments. And let's see. So can you put up the volume, please? I have mine to the, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not see that earlier. We'll keep that in mind for the next chat. So sorry, Karen. And then, okay, so our next question, can you put the name of the book in the chat? Yes, so I'm gonna just go through a few. So The Motivation Myth is this amazing book by Jeff Hayden. I highly recommend that you read it. It will completely, kind of blow your mind when it comes to motivation. And then a few of the other books, let me just go through. The other one is The One Thing, and it is by Gary Keller. So I'm gonna put that in the chat as well. And feel free to also, we take this time to do, landing page reviews or any questions you might have, whatever you really would like to have answered in the Gumroad Gumroad Q&A. And we also have a Q&A session coming up as well, and a special workshop from the actual CEO of Gumroad. So I hope those are all the books that I discussed today. Oh, there's one more, and it is called The 12-Week Year. I'll also post that in the chat. It's this incredible book, and it goes into the process of what we talked about today a little bit more about, breaking down things into quarterly achievable goals. And I'll just post the Amazon link in there. And also highly recommend you read it. These are kind of 3 books that completely changed my life, and it'll walk you through creating goals and creating systems to actually like meet those goals. So if you have, a 1-year goal, and we kind of did a mini, summary of this book, but it'll really help you, get done more in 12 weeks than you could have gotten done in a year. And I personally applied this book to my life, and it was extremely helpful. So I highly recommend that you read it. And I hope those are all the books that I discussed today. Next time I'll create like a little list. Oh, thank you for your nice comments. Really appreciate it. So our next question, when you have top ideas, how do you decide which one to go with? So that is a really great question. It's something that a lot of Gumroad creators really struggle with. So I completely understand. I think the really important thing to do that we discuss a lot at Gumroad is focus. If you don't have an audience and you don't know what people want, is to focus on building your audience first. So if you maybe don't have a big email list, if you don't have a lot of, Twitter followers or a large Facebook group yet, or a lot of YouTube subscribers, and you don't know what people want, because if you have an audience, disclaimer, they're probably going to tell you what they want, because you've kind of, been sharing your knowledge and you've been building in public, and you're going to get these, questions. And so it's like a little bit of a cheat code in helping you pick a great topic. And something that we actually discussed in the 14-day product guide that's going on right now. So you can actually go download the guide at Gumroad University, and you can go through this yourself, or you can join a little bit late. And we have this kind of system for picking which product. And kind of like the short summary of that is that you pick a product that you're excited about, and you pick a product that your audience is excited about, and you pick a topic that you also know a lot about, that you don't have to go and research and you don't have to learn a ton, because it's going to be far more impactful to your sales if you pick something that you know a lot about and that you're excited about, because it's going to give you a little push in terms of sales and also getting things done each day. So I would say is, if you have like a few ideas and you don't know which one to go with, really just, crowdsource that answer, take it to your audience and focus on what they're most interested in. Maybe that's a poll, or maybe it's this question that you see from them. I think it's one thing that creators do a lot is that we think people are really interested in this idea, and then we go off and build it, and then nobody buys it, and you're really disappointed. I know I did this personally about 2 years ago. I created this entire course, and it was in a topic that I'm interested in and I know a lot about, but my audience wasn't interested in. So nobody was really that interested, and it didn't make a big splash. But then I focused on building a larger audience, and this is something we're actually working on a really exciting new Gumroad challenge right now about building your audience. So you should definitely go to gumroad.com/Gumroad and subscribe, because it's going to answer all these questions really well, and it's going to walk you through the entire process. But if you focus on building your audience first and finding out what they want, that's going to help you in sales so much. And when I did this, my first course, I didn't do it, and I didn't get really any subscribers. I think I had 40 people, and it was a course that I spent months working on. And then instead, when I went to my audience and I was like, what are y'all interested in? What do you want to create? What would you want me to create? And I looked at these reoccurring questions that I was getting. That product got 1,000 subscribers really fast, and the next one got 3,000. So if you focus more on your audience instead of kind of, the idea, it'll be really helpful. So the next question, hi. So you mentioned the Gumroad circle or something. Can you link or elaborate on this? Thanks. Yes. So let me grab the link to the Gumroad circle invite. And so we just opened this up publicly for Gumroad creators, and you can find all of the Gumroad challenges on there that are running. You can see we have the Sale Every Day challenge. We have the 14-day product challenge that's currently running. We have the 5-day email list. And then there's also just other places where you can post status updates, or where you can find, like-minded people like you that want to create. So also a lot of Gumroad employees are on there. I'm on there, Daniel Vassallo is in there, Philip is on there as well. We have everyone on there, and we have a lot of Gumroad creators that want to help you. So I'm going to copy the invitation link. And this is the invitation link to the 14-day product challenge if you want to join a little bit late. Highly recommend that you do. It's easy to catch up right now, and it's a great time to get started in 2021. So there's the link in the chat. And yeah, so let's see, the next question, the books are not showing up in the chat. That is odd. Okay, let me post them again. Okay, So those are all the books in the chat. And then here is the circle invite. So hopefully that's helpful. The motivation myth is in there, the one thing, the 12-week here, and then the circle community is at the bottom. All right, and we have another great question. We have like 10 minutes to go, so feel free to like throw them in there. We have some really good ones. Thank you for the show. How can we succeed on Gumroad platform in the section of e-commerce? So that's a little bit hard to say, like without seeing your product and without seeing your offer. One thing that you can do right away is join the challenges and focus on start building your audience, because it's so great to focus on Gumroad for Gumroad Discover, and that will bring you, I think, Daniel Vassallo said he had like 7% or something, a very great number of sales. But the most impactful thing you can do for getting sales is if you focus on building an audience. And that's going to be so much more impactful for you than focusing on doing well in the e-commerce section. If you have an audience, it's going to be just way better. Because if you think about it, if you think about the last Gumroad product that you bought, it's probably something that you felt like you had a connection to that person, right? Like if I think about the last product I bought, it was because I was looking at someone's tweets and I was like, oh, really interesting. I like what they're trying to do, and that helps me with my goals. And then I went to their website and I was like, oh wow, they have a Gumroad product. That's so awesome. And then sometimes I would join an email list, sometimes the tweets would be enough, but usually it's, if someone buys your product on Gumroad, it's because they're going to feel like they have a personal connection to you. And that's where you're going to find you're going to do the biggest amount of sales. So I wouldn't focus on, just doing well in one section of Gumroad or focusing on Gumroad Discover as your only mean of sales. I would focus on going out there and building an audience and creating quality free content. And it's something that we focus on in the email list challenge, which is starting up again soon. So that'll be really helpful. I just focus on giving away free, valuable content and creating a really huge list of engaged people. And maybe it's not even a big list. Maybe it's, a few hundred people that are really excited about what you're doing. But I would say for you in particular, I would focus instead on building something that people want and building your audience. So I hope that is helpful. And thank you everyone for all the nice comments. Hopefully everyone can see the chat now. The next question, are there any ideas or industry lanes that are coming up that creators should avoid? I don't know, that is a great question. I don't think I can answer that. I think for things that you should run towards, things that your audience are excited about. So I think if you in particular, Larry, are worried that, so it sounds like if you're worried that someone's not going to buy your product and you're wondering what you should avoid, I would focus more on building, like I said earlier, what your audience is really interested in, and focus on the intersection of what you're excited about and what you know a lot about and what your audience is interested in. And that's going to be the best way for you to instead don't focus on what you should avoid, focus on like what people want. And try to validate your ideas as much as possible by building your audience, and then putting out a small, if you want to write a book, for instance, putting out a small portion of that book and giving that away for free and seeing how many people download it. And maybe that's kind of a way that you validate, so you don't spend, like I did, 6 months writing a book that thankfully people did buy. And I kind of knew a little bit my audience wanted it, but if I hadn't, what if I had just spent that 6 months working on a book that no one was interested in? And I would have felt completely demotivated at the end, and it would have been awful. So I highly recommend that you look for what your audience is interested in first. Hopefully that is helpful. You can always feel free to message me on Circle or post in Circle and tag me, and any of the other Gumroad creators on there will also help you if you have further questions after these Q&As. So this is a great question from Kirby. There are a lot of creator platforms now, and more it seems like every week. Why Gumroad? What is the unique value proposition? So for me personally, I actually sold on a few different creator platforms. I was like, last year, and I was trying them all out. So I've personally done it myself, and I'm not gonna name names or everyone's great, but I'm not gonna disparage anyone. But when I was on these other platforms and when I was selling, I made like $3,000 on one platform and I made $33,000 on Gumroad. And the biggest thing about Gumroad is that Gumroad is trustworthy. People want to buy somewhere that they trust, and Gumroad, it's it's less expensive, and it's also it's kind of like the biggest creative platform in my opinion that people trust, and people want to put their money where they trust. Because personally, for me, when I see on a smaller platform, I see someone selling their own course online, I don't really want to put my credit card in there, and it makes me like a little bit nervous. But when I go on Gumroad and I see it's like an easy, very few click checkout, it's kind of the best way to make sales, because you're taking away that decision for your audience. Because for me, if there's 10 clicks to a checkout, or it's somewhere that I don't trust, that's giving me doubts throughout my product. And you might be looking at this and you're like, okay, well, I don't know if I trust this place to buy it, and then it's a lengthy checkout process. So I think for me, the biggest thing about Gumroad is that I have made above and beyond more sales on Gumroad than I've made any other platform that I've ever tried. And Gumroad Discover is also a great way. There's an amazing Q&A with Daniel Vassallo that's on YouTube if you want to go back and watch it. It's really valuable. But he had around 7% of his sales come from Gumroad Discover, and that is huge. So I love Gumroad personally, and I think it's just really trustworthy. I think people want to buy from where they trust, and I saw that for myself personally. And I didn't work for Gumroad last year, but I made the decision to just completely sell on Gumroad, and it's been really huge for me. So I highly recommend it. Oh, and thank you so much, Kirby. Kirby is taking the 14-day challenge, and she's loving it. So I love that. Connect with me on Circle. And so our next question, I'm a software developer currently freelancing. At the moment, I can only think of continuing to sell my time. I don't know how to productize my knowledge. Any advice? Yeah, so that is a really great question. I was there last year, so I understand. I would focus on building your audience first. So I think it's great, that you have these goals. This is amazing. And I think it's really great that you want to, turn your knowledge into a product, because if you have this passive income building up for you, it's something, you freed up your time and you have more time to do other things. So I would personally say, if you don't have an audience yet, I would focus on building your audience. I would say you can join the upcoming challenge we have coming up for that, spoiler alert. But I would focus on building your audience first, and I wouldn't focus on turning it into a product right away. Maybe you focus on turning it into a free guide. Maybe you create, like a tiny email list lead magnet. I would not focus on a product right away. I would focus on building your audience and then seeing what they're interested in. And that's going to be the best way that you can really make sales later on, is if you start with something that your audience wants. Because I know for me personally, that when I went and I created this whole product and I spent months on it, and then basically no one downloaded it, it was really discouraging for me. And I actually stopped making products for months because I felt so unmotivated. I was like, wow, that was a huge failure. I don't want you to feel like that. I want you to feel successful. So if you build this audience first and you go work on that, it's going to be really helpful for you. So hopefully that answers your question. I am going to copy the invitation link again and just post it to panelists, because a few people didn't see it. Always feel free to DM me on Twitter, and if you're on Circle, do that as well. But if you have problems getting on Circle, always feel free to DM me or contact Gumroad support. And we have another great question. Can I create a course on a different niche? Will it be conflicting to my audience? Yeah, I think you absolutely can. I think you can, I don't want to say start over, but I would like to say you can start tweeting or creating YouTube videos or posting on your Facebook group about something else. For me personally, I'm interested in a lot of different things. I'm interested in habits. I'm interested in content creation. I'm interested in tech. And I post about a lot of different things. And I think if your audience is interested in you, they're going to be interested in other things that you have to say about that topic. Like for me personally, I just love reading anything by Daniel Vassallo, who's the head of product at Gumroad now. And he tweets about his house, he tweets about investments, he tweets about his Circle community now. And I'm interested in all of it. And even if it's, I'm not in the process of buying a house or building a house or anything like that, but it's still interesting to me because I'm interested in what he's doing. So I think if your audience is really interested and engaged with you, I wouldn't worry about, a different niche. So it's a great question. I would focus though on kind of becoming the authority and expert in your space in one space first and then building. But, it's really up to you. So our next question, so there's a few people look like they might have circle problems. Feel free to DM me on Twitter and we'll get that sorted out. And the next question, I am a 3D artist. How do I stay motivated and achieve your art goals and stand out from the crowd? That is a great question. Hopefully this workshop helped answer a little bit of it in terms of staying motivated. Don't focus on staying motivated. Focus on building a process out for your goals. So, get out there and write down that you're going to maybe create one piece of art every week and you're going to do a little bit of it every day. Or maybe you're going to share that art, twice a day on Twitter, or you're going to share it on Facebook or Reddit or wherever your platform might be. I would focus on just doing a little bit every day, and that's going to create that motivation for you. Because if you read the book, Motivation's a Myth, Motivation Myth, it's an amazing book. But if you read that, you're going to find out that we shouldn't rely on that. So yeah, don't try to stay motivated and do that, but I would focus on just doing a little bit every day. And you'll find if you really want to stand out as a creator, that if you're creating this content every day and people are responding to it and you just stick to that process, it's going to be so great for your long-time content creator goals. Yes, so here is my Twitter handle if you have any questions that I can answer with Circle. And if you're on Circle and the invite is in the chat, you can also feel free to ping me right on there and you'll see that the Gumroad staff is on there. We're ready to answer all of your questions and we're running all of the challenges on there as well. So highly recommend that you get on Circle. You also get, I think, an email notification with the big post of that day. But if you're checking it frequently, that's where we're going to be posting all of our announcements, and we're going to be posting, one-on-ones with creators. I try to respond to like every single message there, which thankfully it's not too big yet. So get in now while we can still do that. And I think we have time for one last question. It is a great question that's going to be super helpful for everybody. How much content should I be giving away for free? So that is an amazing question. I wouldn't focus on kind of, creating all this free content at once. I would focus on creating just one thing that your audience is interested in. Like for me, I created a free guide on how to become an engineer, and it was about 50 pages. It took me about 3 or 4 weeks, and it eventually got around 3,000 email subscribers. And that was like one piece of content that I gave away for free. And then, I created blog posts and I've been on some podcasts. But I wouldn't look so much at the number, and I hope this is helpful for you. I wouldn't look at the number, but I would look at what value you're giving away. So you don't have to give away a ton. You don't have to create all this content. You could even create maybe, say, one valuable lead magnet. And then maybe you just focus on blog posts, and maybe you focus on YouTube videos, or maybe you focus on your Instagram. And you kind of funnel all your people into that. And you say, hey, go follow me here, and send your lead magnet and you can get onto my list. So hopefully that was a helpful answer, and always feel free to get on Circle and ask us any questions there. You can find like-minded Gumroad creators as well that are on the same journey as you and have the same goals as you. It's really helpful, and it's an amazing place to be. So I highly recommend you join. And that's all the time we have for today, but we do have some really exciting challenges coming up. So make sure you subscribe at gumroad.com/Gumroad and join the Circle community, because we have an amazing workshop coming up from the very one and only CEO of Gumroad. And we have some great Q&A sessions coming up and more challenges. So thank you all so much for attending. Really appreciate your time today.